I would rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried. There's so many people I meet who got their license 5 years ago and still haven't done it, who haven't left the job that they hate, who are still working part-time somewhere else because they're too nervous. Like, you only have one life to live, and before you know it, we will be dead.
Our goal is to bring you somebody in power that's had the experience of doing something extraordinary. And today I have a guy that I've been following for a long time, Ryan Serhant.
Sure.
How does a guy step into a business that's extremely competitive and produce at these kind of levels in that short a period of time?
I mean, the barrier of entry for sales is like down in the floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's so great about it. That's also what's so scary about it. But if it wasn't so easy to get into the business, I never would have gotten into it. If in order to become a salesperson or become a real estate broker, if I had to go to school for 4 years and take on a lot of debt, I probably wouldn't have done it. But it was, I think at the time, 50 or 60 hours in a class, a couple $100, and you become a licensed associate salesperson in New York City. And you could advise people on $1 billion deals. If you could find somebody that wants to do that, if you know what you're talking about. So you start from the bottom. You know, there's 80,000 of us, I think, in the city now.
Just in New York?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Wow.
And you start at the bottom, so you do rentals, right? And I got into the business purely just to pay my own rent. That's the whole reason I did it, was because I didn't want to be a bartender. I didn't want to be a waiter. I wanted to make my own hours, not be stuck to a desk. And so I would post ads on Craigslist. I'd meet people, and then I'd go show them other apartments, and hopefully they'd take one. And that was my sales boot camp, was meeting crazy New Yorkers on the street and showing them apartments that I didn't know where they were. And I learned the city at the same time, because I'm not from New York. I didn't know anybody. And those were my first clients, and just sort of built up and built up and built up from there.
So your first deal was what? Do you remember?
It was a lease? It was $1,100 a month. Oh, they were all leases. All my first deals for the first couple of years were $1,100 a month in Koreatown, right? And so that's $1,100 a month. The commission would be 1 month's rent. I would split it 50-50 with the house. So I'd be
$550.
$550, which for me at the time was like models and bottle money, right?
Yeah,
it was huge.
Yeah.
Because I had spent the first couple of years in the city making no money whatsoever.
You can get a model for $550?
I thought so at the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought so at the time. But any amount of money that I could make in that, in 2008, 2009 was a lot of money to me.
Yeah.
Because I credit a lot of that to my success today, that I had no other understanding of money, no other understanding of wealth or bills or responsibility. Like, every couple $100 I made meant a shitload to me.
Yeah.
Right. And so every time I would compound that and compound that and compound that, I just wanted more and more and more. And it was just a matter of my time. So just how much time was I willing to put in? How much time was I willing to not take off? And then I could pass everybody else just purely by working harder.
So who were you before this and before $1 Million Listing? Like, tell me about how you grew up, where you grew up, and what the circumstances like.
I was born in Texas, in Houston.
Okay.
Grew up a little bit in Texas, Kingswood.
Okay.
Yeah, outside Texas.
Yeah.
Grew up there and moved to Long Island for a little bit, and then really moved to outside Boston. So I grew up outside Boston.
Go Red Sox.
Yeah. So they just won. I grew up outside Boston, and I did like English and theater were my things, right? And I went to college in upstate New York, and I wanted to do theater. That was always kind of what my passion was, what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor, and that's what brought me to New York City when I graduated. I took the LSAT because I thought I had to go to law school like every other liberal arts, graduate, and I bombed that, so that didn't work out. And then I tried to be an actor, could make no money, it didn't work out. I got into a soap opera for a short period of time, and then I got killed off.
Yeah.
And then I ran out of money. I was like, what do I do? Do I move home to Colorado because my parents had moved by then? Or do I stay in New York and try to figure it out? And that's when a friend said, listen, get your real estate license, rent apartments, it'll at least buy you time. And my rent was like $1,000 a month, for a studio on 31st Street in Broadway, sharing a bathroom with a lot of people. And it was the worst, but it kept me in New York City. And that's what I did.
So when did you lose the Texas accent?
I never really had one because my parents aren't from Texas.
Okay.
But we lived there. My sisters who are still there, they have accents. But I never really had one. And then because then we went to Long Island where there's a strong accent, and then we went to Boston where there's a strong accent. So I think that the accents never really stuck to me.
Yeah, and you went with who? When you went?
With my parents.
Okay.
My parents and my little brother.
And why were they going there?
For work.
Okay.
Yeah, for my dad's job, which bounced around a little bit.
And he was doing what?
Finance. My whole family does finance, every single one of them.
What does that mean, finance?
They're all in investment banking.
Okay.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money in that space?
I think so. Yeah, they do okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean you think so?
I mean, I had a comfortable life.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
that's
come
what
from
I'm looking
squalor.
for. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you grew up middle class,
Yeah.
Upper middle class?
Yeah, we grew up nice. We had nice houses. I had nice things. I never had to deal with student debt, you know, like we grew up well. And so I think that, but we always had to work. Like my little brother and I always had to do manual labor for our jobs. It sucked. It was the worst. I resented it, you know, fully. But I also credit it at the same time, you know, now. Like I'm very, very thankful that I had to work in construction and do roofs for years and years and years, because I never want to do that again. And I will work my ass off every day to keep me off of roofs.
So did your dad instill this, hey, you got to work?
Yes, 100%.
That came from him or
Yes.
your mom?
Not my dad, for sure.
And what was he telling you as a kid?
That's, you know, there's a lot of things you can't control, but how hard you work isn't one of them.
Oh, wow.
And
Like that.
you know, everybody else can be taller, bigger, smarter, faster, come from different families, come with money, go to better schools, but you can always show up earlier. You can always show up later. So like when I first got to New York and I wanted to be an actor, I lived with two roommates. One was, they were both paralegals because they both wanted to be lawyers. And my dad told me, and I remember, he's like, listen, you don't have a job. You don't have any boss telling you what to do. They do. You're going to wake up before they do and go to bed after they do. You're going to work harder than they do. And that's at least how you're going to know whether this is going to work or not. Because the last thing you want to do is just show up and wait for the phone to ring. And that really kind of rang true to me. And he also taught me that everything that I do is a choice. So the waking up, the working out, the making the calls, the doing the follow-up, the emails, like picking yourself up after you get knocked down, like it's all a choice that you make. And that makes this job very, very freeing versus kind of being as depressing as it can be for a lot of people.
You mean the job now, the real estate? Yeah. So when you took when you went to acting and then said, hey, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
Was it because of the money, the opportunity?
The money, for sure. It's the money, but also the happiness. Like there's a correlation between the two. Like I wish upon no one to be dead broke in New York City.
Yeah.
Like it's terrifying. Like
there's a lot of people that are dead broke in New York City, right?
And not knowing how you're going to pay your bills that month, not knowing like, what am I going to do if I don't hit rent? You know, getting your credit card declined, like all that stuff was very, very humbling for me. And I'm glad it happened to me when I was really young, right? When I was 22, 23. But at the same time, it really teaches you that no matter what your passion is, your passion also has to be able to pay the bills. So I wanted to be an actor, but I also wasn't willing to be homeless for it. And I didn't want to move home and make some money because I never would come back, right? That's the thing. Like once I got to New York, I knew I had to figure out a way to stay there because I never would come back. And so that was a big deal for me.
So how do you tell a real estate agent that's complaining about the open house about the 20-hour standing in line for a maybe part?
Yeah, it's all a numbers game, right? And that's a big thing for me. Like, how do you have as many balls in the air as possible so it's okay when certain ones drop because they just will by default. And that's what the whole book is about. And that's kind of how I built my real estate business because, you know, in the acting business, like you don't get that part because of your face, right? And because you're prematurely gray or whatever the issue might be, or because you suck reading the lines.
Right.
In real estate, the one thing I loved immediately, which other people really hate, is that the rejection was never because of my face. Like someone didn't take an apartment because I was too tall.
Right.
They didn't take it because they didn't want it or because they suck. I don't know. And so I never took it personally. And so it was always just that numbers game.
It was about whether it was the right product or the right pricing.
Which was awesome for me. And I think those 2 years trying to act and having being rejected over and over and over so personally is what built up that thick skin in me so that where like the 84% of real estate agents who quit in New York City in their first year because they can't handle that rejection. For me, I didn't have that. I got rejected all the time. Don't get me wrong. Like in my mind, I was quitting all the time because it just was brutal. But it wasn't because of my ears. Like it wasn't because of the way I looked on camera. It was because
this was something you could control finally.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, right? There's a lot of stuff in real estate you can't control either.
Yeah.
Like bankers, attorneys, what the mother-in-law is going to say, what the wife says when she walks in and she doesn't like the paint color. Like that stuff you can't control, but at least I can anticipate it and work with it. Whereas in the acting business, it was completely out of my control. But in that time, you know, in waiting in those lines and you wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, I tried to be as resourceful as possible. So I would try to meet all the other actors in line, right? And I'd try to make other friends. Maybe there's other things that I could do with that time and with those relationships more than just waiting for my turn. And same thing with open houses. Like you try to use that time as much as you can, whether it's calling other agents who have similar other open houses to see how their traffic is, get to know them. You do other work on your phone, you come prepared. And then, you know, if there are 50 people who show up, then you do that stuff afterwards.
So how does this thing come full house for you? Like, I mean, it seems like you had this entrepreneur thing
Yeah.
even as an actor. And then you get the entrepreneur thing handled a little bit in real estate, but you go back to the acting. I mean, it's like a full circle
That's
for you.
weird.
You're on TV all the time.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of people say that to me, and they're like, you have the best of both worlds because you wanted to be on TV and then you weren't, and then you got into real estate, but now you're also on TV doing real estate. And I think it's like, what is that line? About luck. Like luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah, right.
Which you never really believe until it actually happens.
Yeah.
Like I prepared my whole life to be in front of a camera, and I thought it was going to work one way, and it did not work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then this opportunity came up when $1 Million Listing Los Angeles decided to do a New York franchise in 2010. They put out a casting call, and I saw it because it was in the real estate newspapers. And I'd totally given up on acting 2 years prior. And I saw that and was like, wait a minute, I was on a soap, man. I've done stuff before. I'll go to that.
Yeah.
And they were like, are you the greatest real estate agent under the age of 30? And I'm like, fuck yes, I am. And just sold myself.
That was the question, huh?
Yeah, basically.
Did you do that in person or did you do it over
person
Skype?
at first? It was like a 30-second in-person interview, and then it was a bunch of emails and follow-up, and it was like a 6-month audition process.
Oh wow!
But I knew how to handle myself in front of the camera, and now I actually did real estate, and so I think that helped whittle it down so that when they cast me on the show, then I just had to really step up to the plate of being the greatest real estate agent ever, and that really put a gun to my head to go out and make more phone calls, talk to more people on the street, follow up with more people, because the last thing I want to do is fail on television as a real estate broker.
So you're making that claim, I am the greatest real estate agent.
That's my affirmation. I did it publicly to everyone in the world, and I also did it in my own head. Like, who's to stop me? Like, no one will ever tell me to stop selling, right? No one will ever tell me that I sold too much. So if I wake up every single day and say I'm the greatest real estate broker ever, it might not be true today, but it will be true eventually.
So how important is that affirmation? Like just talk about for
Massively.
you.
Yeah.
What people are saying to themselves every day.
The power of positivity, the power of yes, right? Say yes and figure it out later. Stay positive. And, I always kind of look at it like you're driving in a car, right? And there are two types of people. One person looks out the right window where it's sunny. The other person looks out the left window where it's cloudy. And you both made the same choice to look out a window. One just decides to see a different type of weather. And for me, it's always been like, okay, so it's my choice to wake up upset. Bad things can happen. It's okay to get pissed off, right? And it always happen, and balls will always fall. But it is your choice to wake up positively or negatively. And so I've always just made the choice, even if I'm gritting it and I hate it, and I really want to be pissed off, and I want people to comfort me, and I want to feel bad. That's not a choice I'm willing to make because I know it's going to affect my day, and no one wants to buy anything from someone who's pissed off. Right? They want to buy something from someone who's enthusiastic because that's what you sell. You sell enthusiasm every day. And that enthusiasm and that positivity, like that has been a huge, huge boon for me.
So do you think that has helped you multiply your business, being on TV, being out there, telling the public who you are and what you're going to stand up for?
Yeah, success begets success. People will only hire you based on what you're known for. So if I'm not out there telling people over and over, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or because I got really, really lucky on a national television show, then no one's going to know what I stand for, especially when you're in sales, whether you're selling anything. You're selling classes, you're selling tires, you're selling real estate. So it's always important for me to put out there over and over that I'm a salesperson, this is what I sell, because that way people will know it.
Yeah, and a lot of real estate agents, they don't even use the word sales. Like,
yeah, it's weird.
I can be with them 40, 45 minutes and like never hear the word come out. I'm not a sale. They actually say, I'm not here to sell you.
Right, which is...
But you've used that word over and over today.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, though, that the biggest mistake most salespeople make is actively trying to sell. Like that's like watching a pot, right? A watched pot never boils. And so it's important to not focus on the sale. But it's a different conversation. I talk about sales all the time because that is what I do. Like I'm not romanticizing it. I'm not a real estate vice president or a real estate expert or a real estate broker. Like I'm a salesperson. That is how I make an income.
Right.
That is what my 1099 depicts. Did I sell something or did I not? And I think once you own that, then you will sell more and you will make more. Right?
Last piece of advice, Ryan, you would give anybody out there thinking about getting in real estate or sales or trying to take their life to the next level.
My best piece of advice would be just to do it, right? I would rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried. There's so many people I meet who got their license 5 years ago and still haven't done it, who haven't left the job that they hate, who are still working part-time somewhere else because they're too nervous. Like you only have one life to live, and before you know it, we will be dead. So just get off your ass and do it.
Do you think? How do you know that's true? By the way,
Because it's
that you only live
10
once.
years ago. I mean, metaphysically, dude, I don't know. I think there is some sort of.
Why do everybody say that? Everybody says this like they're so confident. You only live once. I'm like, how do you know that?
As far as I know, I only live once, and that's how I'm going to live my life now. If it comes out not to be true, I'll come and find you and be like, dude, this life, I'm taking it easy because I got another one coming. But as for right now, I'm living this one like it's my last.
See, I push harder because I think maybe I do come back.
Oh, as a rapper.
Or a hedge fund guy.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot for being here, man. I know it's going to help a lot of people. Hey, get yourself in a position to sit in that chair right there. Dress like this dude. He's got all the bands going. He's looking New York. He's looking fresh. He's looking good. And he's creating success and sharing that great example. You need to do the same thing. Thank you for watching Power Players. See you next time.